I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest today. Her name is Amy Oliphant, and she is a mother of four, lifelong athlete, mental performance coach, former Division I tennis player turned Ironman triathlete, which I just have to bow down and have such respect for that. Amy has spent decades immersed in competitive athletics, both as a coach, so she coached swimming and tennis, and as a parent to four high-performing athletes, including two current Division I hockey players. Her daughter also has finished college now, but swam in a Division I program. Amy's journey in sport wasn't just about physical training. It was shaped by the powerful lessons she learned about mental toughness. Despite her talent and relentless work ethic, she realized that her mindset was the one thing holding her back from reaching her full potential. And that realization deepened when she began coaching and raising young athletes of her own. Today, Amy is a certified positive performance mental training coach and the founder of Transcend Mental Training. She's passionate about helping athletes develop the mental resilience and confidence needed to unlock their best performance on and off the field. Her mission: to help the next generation of athletes move beyond pressure, perfectionism, and self-doubt and thrive in sport and life. Amy and I have so much in common, and we were discovering that in this conversation. Not only we're mother of four kids, but we have the background of swim as well as hockey parenting. And she's just a little bit further ahead on the journey. And one of the cool things that we discovered in connecting before we recorded was that my daughter is going to be attending high school where her two sons went. So that's so fun, small world. So this, I'll say that I felt at times Amy was sharing and speaking directly to what I needed to hear today. So I know that there's going to be so much wisdom and gained inside of this conversation. We could have kept going too. We had to just close us down because we do similar work in the world and come from a similar place of wanting to be able to pay forward what we wish we had had as athletes and pay that forward to the athletes that we work with today and the coaches and the teams. So I am so excited to share this conversation with you. I am sure that you are going to gain something from this. I know that I took away an enormous amount. So enjoy, and let's get this one going. All right. So I'm so excited for this conversation, Amy. It is so great to see you again and to sit with you in this space. So thank you for being here.
Awesome. No, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to it.
Oh, yes. So let's kick off. We're going to start with you, if you don't mind. You wear lots of hats in terms of the wisdom and knowledge and value you're going to bring into this space and your experience growing up, your cultural upbringing and background, and how that you think that shapes how you see the world today.
Yeah, so I grew up playing all sports in a world like I didn't realize at the time how influential Title IX was. I had no idea, right, that I was so lucky at the time to be doing what I was doing. So back in the early 80s, late 80s. So I grew up playing all sports and then slowly whittled it down to tennis and swimming. And decided in 8th grade that I really wanted to do something in college. So I had to make a choice between the two and chose tennis over swimming and ended up paying off. So I ended up going to the University of North Carolina and playing tennis there. I will say my heart was always in swimming. I missed it tremendously. Truth be told, I picked tennis because that's what my dad wanted me to do. He would go to swim meets and he'd read a book and fall asleep and miss my races. And he was a tennis player, so I could go and play tennis with him and he could come and watch. And, little did I know that the pressure that also created, down the road in hindsight, but had a great experience with tennis at North Carolina. Did burn out, so only played 2 years, but continued to coach tennis pretty much until I had kids. And then after having kids, I got my oldest daughter, into swimming. They were looking for coaches. I missed coaching and my true love was swimming. So I got into coaching swimming and coached swimming for 15 years until I became a mental performance consultant and started my own business. So lots of twists and turns in there for sure. So lots of my experience through sports, through watching my own kids go through, the sporting culture, so to speak, in different sports. And then my own experiences, certainly shaped who I was as a coach and influenced me wanting to get into the mental performance piece and the mental health piece.
That's so important. Yes. So thank you. And I love, so we connected originally, maybe swimming brought us together, and then we did the mental health first aid training back when I was
Yes.
doing that as instructor. And this idea of, looking back at your own journey. So if you may have done these exercises before, and as I shared before we hit record, like whatever comfort level for you, that's where we go,
Absolutely.
of what you would offer her, like that experience of growing up and kind of making this decision that so many athletes, like we hear this push for multi-sport athlete, and then we, in lots of conversations it's popped of like there's true resistance. We try to, trying to do all the things now that a lot of sports have transitioned to almost like the club year-round kind of rhythm, making the decision of when to commit to one. And what would you go back, knowing what you know now, and gift your younger self?
Wow. Great question. I think, and I say this all the time, my younger self, I would say, do it all. I loved soccer, and soccer was just, I remember my freshman year of high school, and they just started a women's soccer team at our high school, and I so wanted to do it. I so wanted to play soccer, and I just didn't do it. I was worried that it was going to affect my tennis. I was worried that it was going to affect my future. And I look back on it now, and it wouldn't have, I strongly believe that it would have only have helped. And I still would have ended up in the same spot that I'm
So
in now.
the
And I tell,
fear.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I tell parents that all the time, like with my coaching, like, you know, I wish, even with my own kids, like I still feel strongly that they could have done more, even though I
Yeah.
advocated for them to do more. I still feel strongly that each and every one of them would be exactly where they're supposed to be and doing
Yeah.
exactly what they're doing. But you have this fear of like these what ifs, right? And,
Mhm.
you know, and I don't think it's hard, it's easy to get caught up in what everybody else is doing and do your own thing. And I wish that I had I had known that then. Like
Yeah.
I would have just loved to have done it all. And that's
Yeah.
all hindsight.
Right, right. Well, the permission slip I hear is like permission to like put fear down, which is easier. We're like way simplifying how
Yeah.
challenging that process can be and the support we need to do it, but being able to put down the fear and follow the joy and the wonder and the love, like it was inside of you. So permission
Yeah.
to follow that joy. Yeah.
Yeah. And just the
Yes.
curiosity and doing something completely different that nobody else was doing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And, and that, like I said, there was definitely some pressure, um, pressure from my parents that I felt, and pressure from my dad with the tennis, and to just do soccer that would be completely different, that nobody knew anything about at the time in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Right.
that's so true. Yeah. Well, and this, so did your mom participate? Like so your dad played tennis. Did she participate in sports? If we stretch back to that generation, it's like,
No, no. I mean,
yeah,
she
so same.
supported it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, she supported it,
Hmm.
but no, it was foreign. The whole
Yes.
the whole sport thing was definitely foreign,
Yeah. And
for sure.
thinking about, it's so true too, the Title IX, like not understanding, like like the world that we grew up in and the things that were available and afforded to us, like we didn't know any different. Right. And
No,
so, yeah, yeah.
no. I mean, I
So
went to North Carolina and we had to buy our T-shirts that we played in. I mean, like that doesn't happen anymore. You should go and like
yes,
they have more clothes than they know what to do with now,
that,
right? And we
the
were
outfitting, it's
for
so
yeah,
true.
outfitting,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I had to like, I had to find my own rackets. I'm sure that doesn't happen anymore, right? Like you
My
just have
goodness.
no idea how far like sports has come,
Has
especially
come.
for women.
Yeah, yeah, so powerful. So you play tennis, you said you played the first 2 years, and inside your bio, you say, I don't know that you shared it here, but there's this resistance to like this, well, the pressure you were feeling not only with like your dad having played tennis, but this talk about you of
Yeah.
just how great, like the potential and the talent level, and this I don't even, that's my word, resistance. Maybe it wasn't, I know that when we think about mental performance and the work that we both do now in the world, that wasn't a anything. I mean, there was definitely teachings that are ancient that have been around for a long time, but it wasn't near the level of mainstream as it is today. And I would still argue that it's not mainstream today. It's not.
No,
We're not there yet.
100% not there
Yeah.
yet. Yes.
Yeah. So were you aware that there was this missing pillar that needed work and resistant to it, or just unaware that there was even this missing pillar in piece? Yeah. Take us into your journey as an athlete if you're up for that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, I mean, I tell the athletes I work with all the time is like, I was that athlete that, you know, berated herself on the tennis court, that, you know, cracked tennis rackets at least once every 2 weeks, you know,
Yeah.
just anger, like anger and frustration and um, the fear of losing. I mean, a lot of this is hindsight. Like I recognize now, like where it was coming from. Back then, like I did see a sports psychologist or what they called a sports psychologist at the time, but
Mm-hmm.
it was more like band-aids. It didn't really, you know,
Yeah.
really explore, you know, it wasn't, you know, CBT or mindfulness or anything like that. It was more like,
Yeah.
you know, stare at your racket strings, or, you know, take a deep breath. Like it was just kind of very,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, like
typical.
anchors almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
anchors.
Just
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Nothing
Yeah,
in the
just an
body.
anchors,
Well,
nothing. Yeah, nothing like learning
processing.
how to relax or understanding where the anger and the frustration was coming from, right?
Got
And
you.
so just never, you know, and then got to college and I just, you know, it just kind of spiraled. It just snowballed. And so
Yeah.
I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take the pressure I was putting on myself. Um, you know, and I was so worried about letting people down. I think that's where the frustration, and I was a perfectionist. And if I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
be perfect, I didn't want to do it. And, you know, and yet I was a really, really hard worker, like, and just, you know, I was trying to do everything in my power. And technically I was there, but I just couldn't get over the hump. I couldn't believe in myself. I didn't have confidence in myself, and
Yeah.
it was carrying over into everything I did. Like it was
Mm-hmm.
carrying over into the academics, into the social piece, and you know, just really was just beating myself up over it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll have to say though that once I stepped away from tennis, like I felt horrible about that too. So I struggled. I struggled
Yeah.
mentally through college and even, you know, early adulting, trying to
Mm-hmm.
find that niche and find my confidence and believe in
Mm-hmm.
myself. So, you know, I think that's the one thing I tell parents when I start working with their athletes, you know, whether when I was coaching or what I do now, is that my goal is to make sure no child ever walks away from the tennis court or the pool or the field of play not believing in themselves
Yeah.
and giving them
Yes.
those tools, because it was, I mean, there was a dark time for sure.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, like we all, not all of us have it, but like I know you can understand that part. That's like,
Yeah.
you know, it was dark.
Mhm. Yes. Yes. And thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
there's so many similarities in our lives, like our stories and parallels to our journey and parts where they intersect. And that is absolutely one that I was walking like in a similar way through that space of just not feeling enough
Yeah.
and the constant inner critic in this, you know, if you like the way that those automatic thoughts were firing and attacking me, like it was almost like an inner abuser. And so also visited a really dark space. And I'm so grateful. So I think about the interception of Greg Harden in my life, and like that,
Mm-hmm.
that's why I say this man like helped save my life, because at that point it was like what you're describing, and he helped me and started to introduce me to this world of inner work that
Right.
helped me peel back those layers. So yeah, so no, thank you for sharing. And yeah, I get like I'm with you. Yes, and I think it's so beautiful how you've taken that experience and like that is your like your a huge piece of your purpose is
Yes.
in the work that you do, and it fuels it, and it comes from the space of knowing what that's like, you know, and the details
For
of the
sure.
lives of the kids today and the athletes is different, and even the sport may be different, but those underpinnings of being able to relate to that space, yeah, so real.
Yes. Yes. And then
Yeah.
I think too, you know, down the road, it made me, you know, I parented very different. I wanted a
Mm.
different experience for my own children as
Yeah.
well.
So did
which
you
was
know that
huge.
before? Yeah, I was curious, like when you started to like that self-awareness of what actually like starting to peel back those layers, like catalyst for that, was it watching, like having your children and watching them navigate, or was it before that? And this,
Good question. I
yeah,
mean, it was a little bit before that. So,
yeah,
I finally got to the point where I needed help.
yeah,
So I did. I went, and that's the best thing I could have ever have done for myself was
mhm,
to get some help and to get some therapy and to kind of unpeel some of those layers and understand you know, where I could improve and
mhm,
understand where some of my frustration and anger was coming from,
mhm.
and that was huge.
Yes,
I'm very fortunate that I was able to do that, and
yeah,
because of that, I mean it's helped with lots of things,
yeah,
because it carried over, like that perfectionist tendency and that type
hmm,
A personality definitely carried over into. I mean, I had four kids under the age of 5 at one point,
that's
and
one. That's I'm just pausing because I had 6 years, but had 2 for 1. So
yeah,
like
exactly. You had a
you
two
had
for
four
one,
times
right?
2 for
So
1.
right, and a
Yeah,
husband that traveled all the time, and I do remember to
yeah,
this day. He walked in and was like, "Either you go get help,
yeah,
or we're going to have a different conversation." And I am
yeah,
so grateful for him walking in and doing that,
yes,
because so to answer your question, I don't know. Yes, it was after I had kids, but they were all
yeah,
still young.
yeah. Yeah, and well, and this peeling in this, and I think the journey, like we continue. Like we're all
Yeah,
like
I'm
this.
still.
I think it's just like try to like be like navigate this like a ninja because I don't want to discourage people from getting help because they're afraid it will last forever and take forever and never, right? Like the
Right,
shifts you won't feel if I say like you just keep peeling back the layers. But I also don't
right.
want to set people up to understand that it's not like a one and done thing, right? Like where you
No,
go one time and then we're all like
I,
like happy and don't struggle again. It's like just this human
well, and I think,
journey.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's exactly what I was going to say. Is like I think
Yeah.
if you look at it as a journey, as constantly
Hmm.
learning about yourself and constantly trying to, you know, improve, right, and
Hmm.
learn, and that it's kind of that just that constant learning, and like the more I feel like the more I can learn about myself, the more I can help other people as well.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. So beautiful.
Like so
Yeah.
for
So you
sure.
had 4 kids under 5. I'm just honoring that. That's so much work. And so
So
do you have 2 boys, 2 girls?
yes.
What's the birth order? Is your
So it's
oldest your
goes,
daughter?
yeah, it's girl,
Yeah.
girl, boy, boy.
Girl, girl, boy, boy. Got it.
Yep.
Okay. And
Yes.
so, yeah, so take us into this space. So at that point, was sport still part of your life? Like in this between after college when you
Yeah.
finished
So,
tennis?
yeah. So I was coaching tennis. So I was still teaching
Okay.
tennis. I was still running, staying in shape, that sort of thing.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
sports was very much a part of my life, being active, staying in shape.
Yes.
If I could find 30 minutes in that time to go run, that's what I did,
Mhm.
so, had a
Yes.
treadmill, put the kids down for a nap or quiet time. First thing I did was like do something for myself.
Yes. Move the body. It's so
Move the
real.
body,
At one point,
exactly. Yeah.
I had a triple stroller. I don't
Yeah.
I couldn't run with it. I don't know what I was thinking, but I
No.
was like, toddler, twins, this is how I'm gonna go for runs. I mean, I did a couple, but no, definitely
No, it
shouldn't have
doesn't
done
work.
many
Yeah. I
more.
mean, I had the double
Oh
stroller,
my
and even that
goodness.
didn't work very well. And the
Oh
double
my
running
gosh.
jogging stroller, I was like, this isn't even fun. Like,
Oh my gosh. Oh, so yeah.
yeah.
So the sport, how like when you're working on yourself and doing that work, which I think is a really important message because so often as parents, like we're focused on our child and what our child, the skills that they're developing, or even as a coach, it's outward focused. And part of this is like this whole entire container is to pull in this invitation to actually like work on ourselves too, right? To show up
Right.
and take care of what Greg would call our baggage that all of us have. And so as you're entering into the space of parenthood, your kids are young and you're learning more about yourself and this awareness of some of the pressures that you faced. Did you like put intentional thought into sport and how you wanted to raise them? Or yeah, so take us into this unfurling of what that was like
I
in
mean,
your home.
Yeah, I mean, I think that like sport was always a part of my life and was such a
Mhm.
valuable experience for me. And fortunately, my husband was an athlete as well and loved sports too. And so um, there was just never question that they weren't going to get thrown into a sporting environment
Mhm.
of something. And our attitude was like we threw them into everything, right? And wanted to see what stuck, right?
Yeah.
So like every single one, like swimming was the first thing that every one of my kids did, just be from a safety standpoint. I wanted to
Hmm.
be able to take them to the pool and not worry about them. I mean, still keep eyes on them, but with 4 under 5, like it was like I needed them all to swim if we were going to go to
Yes.
the pool or the beach, right? So,
Yeah.
so we got involved in our local, club swim team, and my oldest daughter loved that. So when that,
Yeah.
we found then a club swim team after that. But then they played soccer. The girls, swam and played soccer and a little basketball. And, I
Mhm.
put them in dance and ballet because why not? Like, let's see
Right.
what happens. I was horrified, not horrified. I was scared because I never did the dance thing. Right. So
Right.
that was like a whole new experience. Like, that was definitely in my uncomfortable zone, discomfort,
Yeah.
because I just didn't know anything about it. But they loved it for a while and then,
Yeah.
decided that they wanted to go more, soccer, swimming, basketball, that sort
Mhm.
of thing. So, and then when the boys came along, my first son, he had some speech issues and couldn't really talk, but he could watch hockey and he'd get so excited even at age 2. So
Oh my goodness.
we found a learn to skate program and put him in skates, and he loved it. Like he
So
never
fun.
looked back, but he played soccer and lacrosse and basketball. And then
Mhm.
the younger brother just naturally does what the older brother does,
I was going to
right?
say the fourth child.
And then the fourth child, he went to the
Yeah.
rink, so he put skates on. And then he went to the
Yeah.
soccer and he played soccer and he played
Yeah.
basketball. And, he did everything that big brother did. And it just kind of
Yeah.
evolved. And we
Yes.
tried for as long as we could to keep them as actively engaged in as many sports as possible,
Hmm.
for as long as possible,
Yeah.
and that was hard because they all were driven, um,
Hmm.
and I,
I'm
looking
just
back
thinking,
on it,
yeah. Like how take us into that, if you will, in whatever capacity you want to explore. But I'm thinking in terms of like, how did you manage schedules? Because you got
yeah,
hockey and swimming happening, and and some of the challenges are like points where you and your husband maybe had to sit down and figure out like, okay, like what are we like, how are we going to navigate this or tackle this? So what? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, for sure. So, and I had started coaching at some point. Like, what was I thinking? But I think that coaching piece came. I loved coaching, and it goes back to that good enough, right? Like, I
Yeah.
felt like that was the one thing. Like, I wasn't sure if I was a good parent yet. I still
Yeah.
wasn't sure, but that was the one thing I was confident in, that I was a good coach, and it made me feel good about myself. And
Yeah.
I will say that, like, particularly my second daughter and my last son, they were like, "You were never around for us, mom," which just like
Mm.
breaks my heart, but I
Yeah.
understand. And I mean, I guess I did something right because they're all doing what they're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Like whether it was filling my cup and being confident that we'd figure this out or whatever it was,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah, it was a lot of divide and conquer. It was a lot
Yes.
of being able to ask, carpools, and to ask
I
people for
talked about this
rides.
with Lindsay. I was like, she named it, and I'm like, I'm really not good at that yet.
Yes,
I want to get better at that. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
and asking for help. I mean, I still can't, my husband still can't believe we did this, but like we sent our youngest son to Italy with another mom for a hockey
For hockey.
experience. Yes, for hockey. And I was like, bye, like,
So that,
you
well,
know,
in that there, you're speaking to like, there's a level of letting go. There's a
yes,
level of like we can't control all the things. Like this, maybe I'm
right.
speaking to myself here,
Yes,
of allowing and trusting and literally
yes,
letting go. Yeah, letting
yes.
them fly.
And we're like, I mean, I didn't have a problem with sending them with the family, but I was like, did we really just send them to Italy with another family? And we did, So
Yeah.
like,
Oh
it gets to the
gosh.
point where if this is what they want, and you
Yeah.
want them to have a better experience than what we grew up with, and
Yeah.
those, sometimes you just do those things, right? But I mean, I had for a while like a huge wall calendar, and with the erasable,
Yep.
markers, and every kid had a certain color, and
Color.
like
That's what
we,
I do.
yes,
Wait, that's maybe
right,
we should pass that on because I feel
yeah,
like it's a hack. We do. That's exactly what we do. A huge calendar. It is pinned in my
yeah,
walls in my kitchen, and it's
yeah.
every kid has their color. Yes.
Yes,
Yep.
so in our mud room, like
Oh
we had, and then
my
we had
gosh.
a Monday sticker, a Tuesday giant, for the
Yeah.
week, and then every Sunday night I'd go through and
Yep.
erase it and write up their schedule for the board on the
Yeah.
board and make sure. And I'll have to say there were a couple times that we did leave kids places,
Oh,
like especially our
that's
youngest, right? And I mean, I still remember to this day, like I was running to the pool from a soccer game. We were all at the soccer game, my husband, myself, and the four kids. And I forget whose soccer game it was. And Rents was running. Then he had to take like somebody to hockey. I had to run to the pool. And I get a friend, thank God, like we were on the same soccer team with some of our best friends. And I get a call, and he was like, did you forget something at the soccer game? I was like, no, I don't think so. I was like, I'm good. I've got who I need in the car. And he was like, well, Mac is still here. And I was like, oh, yeah, I guess we did forget something. Oops. Yeah.
oh my gosh. This is I'm so
So,
glad you're naming this because
yes. So,
that
like,
moment, like, okay. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah.
yes, I mean,
Oh,
it happens. And I
it
mean,
takes a
and
village too.
it takes a
Yes,
village. And
thankfully.
thank
Yeah.
God, like, it was like our neighbors, and, like, it wasn't
Yeah.
so. Child services did not show up at our door
Oh
with a
my
missing
goodness.
child, and he
Yeah.
took him home, and we went and got him when we were done with the other activities, and he was
Yeah.
happy. He got to play with his best friend, and it was all good. But, you know, so it happens.
Yes. And being able to so with the referencing like the inner critic being so harsh in those moments, like I still struggle like as like the mom piece, like
Right.
professionally, my own work, my body, there's so much ground I feel like I'm living in peace there when it comes to the mom role and messing up there. Like I still feel those massive waves of shame hit. That's where it grips me. So how
Yeah.
do you like what would you for me and for others like when we fall short or make mistakes as moms, parents, right? What
Right.
did you how are you able to meet yourself in those spaces?
Um, again, a lot of it was therapy. Like, I can't
Yeah.
say I handled it. I didn't handle it very well in the younger years. Like,
Yeah.
I was trying to do everything and was falling short. And I can still, like I said, remember beating myself up for the fact that, my youngest son would be in the bouncy seat at bedtime crying as I'm trying to put the other three to bed,
Hmm.
and I can remember, and I gave myself no compassion and no grace back then. So
Yeah.
it really took a couple years, fast forward to, when he was 5, it's kind of once he turned 5 and I kind of turned a corner. And
Yeah.
then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm doing the best that I can. And kind of
Yeah.
the same advice that we tell the athletes and others, like, sometimes that best isn't 100% of ourselves, but
Yeah.
I'm doing the best I can with as much love as I can. And there's only so much that I can do sometimes. And
Yes.
right. And mistakes happen. And so I think for me is trying to lead by example,
Yeah.
trying, wanting my kids to learn how to be self compassionate at a young
Mm.
age, letting them see that mistakes happen and it's
Mhm.
okay. Right. And
Yes.
so letting them know, like, hey, I made a mistake and I'm
Yes.
sorry. Right.
Yes.
So, and being able to say sorry and being able to
Yep.
like admit that and like say, hey, I messed up. I'll try to do
Yes.
better next time. No guarantees, right? There's
Yeah.
no guarantees at all. But, in this mess of stuff, in this mess of life, and like
Hmm.
mistakes are going to happen, right? And
Yes.
reminding ourselves we are trying to do what's best for our kids. And we don't
Yep.
know the answers either. Nobody gave us a
Yeah.
playbook,
No, but they're
right?
really, that's why sometimes I'm like, I maybe could have called this the no playbook for parenting
Yeah, I
podcast
mean,
because
there is no
there,
playbook. There
yeah,
is
there
no
really
right
isn't.
way. Like I can sit here and say, this is what worked for me, but nobody knows their situation better
Mhm,
than you, right? But like
mhm,
I do believe that self-compassion is huge.
mhm,
And I do
mhm.
believe like handling it with grace and being, this
Yes,
is what happens.
yes,
Life happens, and how
yep,
we respond is gonna like make or break it. And sometimes, you know what? And sometimes we fall off the wagon and don't respond as gracefully as we want. And
mhm,
we have to just kind of take that deep breath and reset
mhm.
and
Yes,
give ourselves space to be mad at times. Like,
yeah,
at how we reacted. Like, again, we're not
mhm.
perfect, but we also can set that example for our kids.
That's it. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yes, I feel that so deeply. And this idea of self-compassion. Let's just like, so I'm going to pull on your professional experience and hat here for a minute. I want to get back to the kids and their journeys, but this idea of self-compassion as like, it's still like associated with weakness, like becoming soft. So would you speak into that of how vital self-compassion is in this space of like mental toughness and as a performance tool and just in our so like, human piece and also prefer performance and speak kind of to, let's say, the skeptic who's like, there's no room for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, no, I mean, I think the way that I look at self-compassion is as we know, the brain is the negativity bias, right? And
Mm-hmm.
always searching for those threats. And so I feel like the more self-compassionate we can be with ourselves, the more we're giving ourselves safety. We're
Mm-hmm.
creating that space and letting the brain know we're okay. Hey, this
Yes.
isn't something to fear. This isn't something to be scared of. We're good. We're okay.
Yeah.
We made a mistake. We didn't handle this as well as we wanted to. We didn't perform as well as we wanted to. We didn't
Mm-hmm.
parent as well as we wanted to, but we're still safe. And we're in this
Yes.
safe spot, right? And so it has to do with that acceptance piece too. It's like, yes, I made this
Yeah.
mistake. And what can I do? Where can I direct my focus to move on?
Mm-hmm.
And to fix it, or not even fix it, just to be better. We don't have to fix anything. Nothing's broken, right?
Yeah.
But just to be able to be like, let our brain know that we're
Yeah.
safe. And I think
That's it.
self-compassion and the more safety we can create, then the more we can pour into that performance piece. The better we're going to perform, the better we're going to show up because we're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be so, you know, on edge.
Yeah. So much. I've not connected those two pieces, like self-compassion and safety. So this idea of, I think of somatically creating safety, but I have
Mm-hmm.
not. Yeah. So that bridge of what you're sharing of connecting in the way that we're meeting ourselves and talking to ourselves is another way into our nervous system to say we're safe.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's everything, because that idea of, so I've got the scale behind me and I really need to do a podcast just on this, but it's polyvagal based. So it's nervous system
Mm-hmm.
states. And so this
Yeah.
idea of performance, right? You cannot access that if you're if you're out of the optimal performance
If you're
zone. So
out
for
of that
people that,
zones, right?
yeah. Yep. So for people that aren't familiar, that idea of like fight or flight and moving into too high of a stress response, right? For
Mm-hmm.
us to be able to access high
Right.
performance. Yeah.
Right. But I
So,
think it goes into that parenting piece too. Like,
yeah.
if we're looking at parenting as a sport, which it feels like sometimes, particularly when you've got a lot going on, right?
So
I
true.
mean,
Wait, hold on. I
I
want to
mean,
hold that image because that also I've not heard. And that is so, it is
right? It's our
totally,
own sport. It could be an
it is.
Olympic event, right? And
Oh
so
my
I
gosh.
would sign up for the Olympic qualifier for that.
Oh my goodness.
In a
I love
heartbeat,
that.
right? So
Yeah.
like it is, and it works the same way as parenting. If we can like
Mhm.
give ourselves that compassion and to know we're
Mhm.
in a safe spot, and
Yes.
to hold every other parent up into a safe spot, like, you know what, we're
Yes.
all into this together.
Yes. Yes,
you
although
know
sometimes it doesn't feel that way, right?
no,
And
no,
like,
I'm sure you're
yeah,
in it. I'm sure
yeah,
like there is definitely some high strung
yeah,
parents, out
yeah.
there, like, that you just want to create that space. Like, let's
Mhm.
work together on this, right? I mean, that could be a
Yes.
whole nother podcast. So
Yes, well, and knowing what we know about
yes,
just like humans and behavior, and we know that that's like some level of activation and it's hurt,
yes.
right? It's like, so starting to see, learning more about the nervous system and connecting that piece to the work around mindfulness helped me start. I feel like it was like when I took organic chemistry, and this might not land for those that haven't taken it, but you come out of that class and you just like cannot see the world the same way. You see everything as molecules and you're like, okay. And so similarly, now I see, wow, like so that person's really activated, like they're really in
Mhm.
like a fight flight mode, and that
Right.
same thing happens to me
Mhm.
too when I'm rinkside, right? So if we go
Yeah, for
there,
sure. Yes.
your two boys are still like, we'll come bring the kids back into this, you're coming through that space. What were ways that you help yourself and your nervous system stay in a regulated space, or kind of come back down when you're watching sporting events, or there was maybe energy at a rink or I don't know. So you'll have to tell me. Swimming and the I've never been a swim parent, so I can't speak to it. But like, from my experience as an athlete and then parenting on the rink side, now never been an athlete on the ice, like such different cultures, like so
Oh,
different. So
huge, but I
yeah.
mean, very different environments, but same parents still wanting the same thing for their kids,
So same levels
right?
of activation,
Same
maybe just
levels
looks
of activate,
different.
just looks different. Exactly.
Okay.
Like, I mean, as
Yeah.
a swim parent, like when I'm up in the stands, I'm whether I'm at the rink or at the pool, I'm that parent that stands in a corner, like as
Yeah.
far away from people as possible, because
Hmm.
of like I'm so aware of what my triggers are. And
Yeah.
it's not so much, but like for me, it's hearing how hard the other parents are on their own children,
Hmm.
right? And like me, like just like that's my trigger. Like that just
Hmm.
really like gets me like going. Like I just want to see my kid, and I'm nervous because I just want to see my kids do their best. I just
Hmm.
want to see them be happy with their performance. Like I come at it from a completely different,
Yes.
viewpoint than, and
Hmm.
that goes to my own husband too. Like I couldn't stand next to him, even with swimming, because he knew nothing about swimming. He's self-taught hockey dad because he never played hockey, right?
Okay.
But like I got to the point where like I couldn't stand with him at soccer games. I couldn't stand with him. And like, I'd be like, can you just stop? Like, he's not trying to do this on purpose, or she's not
Yeah.
trying to do this on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
as like, if I wanted, like, if I could say anything to parents, it's like, there's no child out there that is getting up on the blocks, playing a soccer game or hockey or their shift or whatever it is, or football, saying,
Hmm.
you know what, I'm going to go out there and really suck today. I'm going to see
Yeah.
how many mistakes I'm going to make, right? Like,
Right.
they're just not doing that. And so,
Right.
um, so for better or for worse, I just removed myself from the situation
Yeah. Well, you
and
were
just,
aware too of what
yes,
you made it, so that conscious choice. So you're aware of what your triggers are. I realized probably in the last year, one of the things that activates me to a level that where I'm like, it's hard, like I have to really work to come back down from, is when it feel like a game feels unsafe and a
yeah,
ref isn't calling,
yeah,
whatever way it goes. I just like, so that physicality, and
hmm
not to get too deep, but I had a daughter that faced death, like nearly
right.
died.
I
And
remember
so
that.
my mind goes straight to this place of like total hijacking. So my
Hmm.
like emotional, like the right stress and trauma, it's the body keeps score. And so for me, well, I've done a lot of healing work, it's still like that place of, okay, whoa. So I can't quite control that, but now I know in that moment. So on the front end, like you're saying, if we know what some of the things are that activate and we have some agency there, use it like you did, take
Yeah.
space. And then on the back end, what I found, and one of my good friends, just she like pokes fun because I come with gumballs. Like I chew the deep pressure. So I
Yeah.
have a lot of gumballs in my bag. If anybody ever sees me at a rink, I've got some to share. And that deep pressure, and then rocks in my pocket of being able to hold stones. So
Okay.
those kinds of things that's come with awareness of, okay,
Yeah.
whoa, that is what the theme is here. That's really getting me going. And then the willingness of this awareness to then say, okay, well, how do I want to respond?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I
So
was the same, like I always had gum,
yeah.
I always, or if I always walked in with like like a huge Diet Coke, and so I'd chew on the straw,
Yeah.
and I'd
Yeah.
pace swim meets. I was the pacer. Like I just walked up and down, so it's a
Yeah.
good thing I eventually started coaching, because then like I could
And
just
channel your
deal with the
energy.
athlete, channel my energy that way,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah.
and even at hockey rinks now, like at their games, I stand. I can't sit, so I've got to
Yeah.
pace, and that's just kind of how I get my nervous energy out, and
Out.
I tend
Yep.
to pace.
I
So,
love that. So
yeah.
so your daughter went on to swim. I'm blanking on where she swam. She went
She
Division
swam at
One.
the, she swam at the University of the Pacific,
Oh,
in
that's right.
Stockton,
Yep.
California. Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Okay.
yeah. And,
And then your second daughter, she
my
played.
second
What
daughter,
was
she played, soccer at a really high
soccer?
level, and
Yeah.
decided that, I will say, like, very proud of her, because, she was sandwiched between Aaron, who was a
Yeah.
really, good swimmer, than my boys, who, had their dreams of D1 hockey. And then
Yeah.
she could have very well have played at a smaller D1 school, and or D3 or D2. And
Yeah.
she started the process and was like, came to us and was like, this isn't what I want. I want to be a student. I want to be,
Yeah.
just go. I want to go to a big school and enjoy the football games, and
Mhm.
just be Maggie, the student.
Yeah.
And, that had to have been really hard for her.
Yeah.
And she did it, and she was scared. And I was like, great. When we pivoted our college search, and she found a school she fell in love with, and
Yeah.
thinks she had the greatest college experience, completely different than the other three, but is
Yeah.
thriving, and like so proud of her for having the courage to do that.
So important that that's
Yeah.
her.
So, yeah.
And
So,
when you look back for you and your husband, what do you think were some of the factors that maybe contributed to her feeling like she could say something and
um,
make that decision?
I mean, I would hope that is because she felt safe,
Yeah.
coming to us. That, I hope the message, got through. Like, hey, you don't have to follow in anybody's footsteps. You don't
Mhm.
have to do this. We tried to, say that to all of them throughout all of their
Right.
sporting. Like, you know what? We're not gonna, you don't have to do this. Like, you don't
Mhm.
have to do the extra training. You don't have to play club soccer. You don't have to, whatever it
Yeah.
is. However, if you commit, we're going to see
Yes.
it to the end of that session, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to quit in the middle, but when the season is over, or when the
Mhm.
8-week session is over, then we can reevaluate and decide what to do. But,
Yeah.
unless Aaron was the only one we ever let pull quit in the middle of a season. And that was
Yeah.
because there was a mental health issue going
Yeah.
on, where,
Yeah.
the coach was verbally, you know,
Mhm.
abusive, and we could see it taking a toll on her. And we were like,
Yeah.
yep, you're done.
Yeah.
You don't have to do this anymore.
No.
So, so there are
Mhm.
boundaries, right?
Yep.
But, and for good reason. But, I hope, it was just that she felt that she had a safe spot, and really trusted the fact that we weren't going to care.
Yeah. You loved her, period. And regardless,
Yeah.
and that I think is
Yes.
something I don't know that we say that enough because I think sometimes our actions can get pulled to like say a different thing, right? And so being
Yes,
able to
for
say
sure.
explicitly, like, I love you, period, whether or not you ever do this again or you don't,
Right. And
and
she
mean it.
says now how much she hated soccer. And I feel, and that tugs, I was like, well,
Yeah.
you didn't have, like, at some point I'll explore that a little bit more with
Yeah.
her. But,
Yeah.
I'm like, I feel so bad. I was like, anyways, what can
Yeah.
we do? But yeah,
Yeah.
like I said, she's thriving.
That's
So,
amazing. Yeah, and
yeah.
then your boys, I didn't realize this till before we hit record, but they're in the same conference. I didn't know
Yes.
that. Both
Yes.
playing
So,
very high level hockey. Yeah,
yes,
so take us
it's,
into that.
yeah, I mean, the hockey
And
journey
they're
is,
close in age, right? They're
yes,
yeah.
their
Yeah.
birth years, they're one's in '01 and the other's in '02.
Okay.
So their
Yeah.
birth years are a year apart, but so Holt aged out of junior hockey, and then Mac left junior hockey a year early. So
Okay.
they're both at the same year in school.
Yeah.
And yes, and they're both living very different college experiences, with one being at the Air Force and the other at Holy
Yeah.
Cross.
Yeah.
So, it's been interesting when they play each other. It's the best day and it's the worst day.
Okay, well,
You
how does
know,
that work?
so
Like,
yeah,
what?
so I always dress neutral. Like I went to North Carolina, so more often than not, I wear North Carolina clothes. Like,
Baby
you know,
powder blue.
yes, exactly. You know, my husband wears the quarter zip of the home team, right? So,
Oh, okay,
but
okay.
yeah, it's a lot of navigating between the parents, and then one boy's happy and one boy's not, and
Yeah.
for better or for worse, Holy Cross has won every time since they've played against each other. So,
Oh, wow.
of course, Holy Cross, my younger son, he's hoping for the career sweep,
Okay.
and you know, like we're hoping that does not happen because it's going to be like yes. So they
That
play
will be
four.
some bragging rights for
Yes, for the
years
rest,
to
yes,
come.
to come. Yes,
Oh my
exactly. And
gosh.
so they play four times this year. We'll see where it goes. So Air
Oh,
Force
wow. Okay.
has four opportunities at least to put Holy to at
To
least
get
get
a
one
W.
win, to get
Oh
a
my
W.
gosh.
We'll see where it
Wow.
goes. But
That's so fun.
they're, you know what, we're so fortunate. So because they're also best friends, and all
Mm,
of them. So it's been fun to watch them grow and support each other and go on this
mm.
journey together as well.
It's amazing.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
so transitioning into the space of, I mean, you can't really separate all your perspectives. It's all woven in. And
Yeah.
I would love for us to speak now and kind of shift gears to the work you're doing in this mental performance space. And well, kind of starting off with like, what are you noticing? So from the perspective of, like you've already named it. There's not like, we don't know the internal workings of a family. We don't know their core values. So it's not for us to say like, here's the right way and the wrong way. And when you're walking alongside of athletes and teams and you're on the ground and learning about them, what are some things that we could do differently, better, right, as parents? And then where are we really getting it right? So like kind of this broad strokes, and then we can go and explore. And I definitely have specific questions that I would love your
Yeah.
take on too around when kids are struggling. Yeah.
When kids are struggling, I think sometimes I think our natural tendency is to want to jump in and fix it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how can we fix it? Right? Like, let's talk about it more. Let's figure out what's going on. You know, let's get another skating coach. Let's switch programs.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes we just have to like let it take its course and listen
Yeah.
more. Like I think we all jump into that space, that fix it mode, myself
Mm-hmm.
included,
Yeah.
right? Like what's going on? Like and sometimes we need to just step back and
Mm-hmm.
let them. I think we still have a hard time letting our children sit in that space of discomfort,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? And so we immediately jump into that fix it mode because it makes us uncomfortable seeing our kids uncomfortable,
Totally.
right?
Especially
And
if we
we
can
want,
see solutions or potential solutions or
yes,
pathway of where we think it
yes,
would like alleviate the discomfort. So I'm thinking of what you shared about self-compassion and like this communication of safety to the nervous system and that space. Like how do we allow that? Like,
yeah.
so I've got my own, I'm so curious what your thoughts are here. Yeah, like I'm in it,
I
and I
mean,
think it's hard sometimes to like have the wisdom of actually what am I doing? I'm just like I'm doing it. Like in these
right.
spaces, it takes like I don't even know that there's
Well,
a specific skill that I do. It's like in the moment when my kid is struggling, noticing the urge or impulse to fix. That's
mhm.
kind of the first thing.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then how do we
I think it's that awareness piece too, is like,
Mhm,
being able to have the discipline of, you know, just like we talk to athletes, is like, instead of reacting,
mhm.
let's pull out, let's
Pause.
pause, right?
Mhm.
Let's scan out and just take a couple deep breaths
Yeah.
and not question, but respond better. Like, how do we
Yeah.
want to respond, right? Like, is
Yeah.
this something that truly needs to be fixed right now? And
Yeah.
kind of examine our own discomfort. Like, is it our
Yeah.
discomfort? Because sometimes, you know what? The child's unaware that they're struggling, right?
Or
Sometimes, right?
yeah.
Like sometimes the child has like, there's nothing wrong. I'm good, mom. Like I'm good, dad. I
Yeah.
don't know. What are you worried about? Like all is good
Yes.
here, right? So sometimes, like we're projecting our own insecurities on our child, right? So really kind of having and being vulnerable and being confident enough that we can be like, okay, maybe this is my issue, right?
Yeah.
And you know what? Is it okay for them to sit in this discomfort? Because
Yes.
more often than not, it is. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let's give them the tools to figure, let's talk it through or give them the
Mm-hmm.
tools to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they've got an issue with a coach, right? Like they come home,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah. Speak
you
to
know
us
what?
about that.
Okay,
Take us. Yeah.
like, if they've got, if they're struggling with practice or a coach got mad at them or they don't understand why the coach is doing A, B, and C, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like our initial reaction is, I'm going to go in and talk to that coach.
Yeah. Or jump in with
I'm
them.
or
Right.
jump in with it,
Yeah.
right, and
Yeah.
fix it. And so, I always had the conversation with my, like, all right, how do you want this resolved? What would you like instead? Like, what would be our ideal situation here?
Yeah.
Again, knowing there's no guarantees, right?
Right.
But like, what's the solution? And I was like, all right, you know what? You need to learn how to advocate for yourself.
Yeah.
So you need to go talk to the coach
Mm-hmm.
and I will be 20 feet behind you. Like maybe not
Yeah.
literally, but if that doesn't work, then these are the
Right.
steps that we'll take. Like,
Yeah.
or you know what, sometimes, giving the coach the benefit of the doubt and trying to
Mm-hmm.
get the, get the athlete or the child to see it from the coach's perspective and
Yeah.
being like, what can you do different? Right. So kind of
Mm-hmm.
talking it through with them. And,
Yeah.
I think the worst thing that I think parents can do from like a team culture is to, badmouth the coach
Yeah.
in front of the, their child. And, so let's, what can we do to resolve this? What can
Yeah.
we do? And sometimes, you know what, sometimes you can do everything and and then guess what? Then we work in conjunction with the child or, with your child in learning how to respond better to the coach.
Yeah.
And if it
Yeah.
doesn't get better, then maybe it is time to change a program or
Or
whatever,
club. Yeah.
right? Or a club or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But the answer is when things don't go your way, the answer isn't just to jump ship and switch to another club. Like
Yeah.
you see that, and I mean, I could go down a road, with the college portal right now, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's the whole
Mm-hmm.
nother thing. But it's the same idea. It's like we can't be
Yeah.
jumping ship every time something
There's
uncomfortable.
discomfort.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's discomfort or struggle or
Yeah.
a plateau, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. Like, you know what? Give them resources. Say, hey,
Yes.
what do you want from this? Right?
Yeah.
I can't, because I've worked with athletes who really don't want to be working with me, but their parents,
Mm-hmm.
and that's, so we talk about, okay, how are you going to tell your parent this isn't what you want?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
flipping that, like,
Yeah.
so
That's so beautiful.
it's
Yeah.
hard to navigate, right? Like we don't know. And again, there's no right or wrong in this. It's like,
Yeah.
but if we can like just stand back and just be like, let's respond instead of react,
Yes.
then things turn out most of the time for the better.
You, with that space, it's so powerful. And I
Yeah.
think even in terms of when we usually, I'm curious your thoughts on this. Like usually if there's some level of activation, we're in fight flight. Like we're in
Mm-hmm.
we're not accessing frontal lobe as like the logical rational thinking part of our brain.
Right.
And so it's really hard to even have logical rational grounded conversations when we're really activated and then it's in that space. So the when you say kind of stepping back and scanning, it's like that pause is so incredibly powerful to help us understand there's still a sense of safety. And I think so it's the experience with the portal and those kind of the jumping ship and the discomfort is I'm making leaps here. But one idea is that it's that discomfort is activating like that's activating the nervous system to see it as an actual threat. Like the
Mm-hmm.
discomfort is the threat. So we've got to run. We've got to
Right.
fight this thing or we got to run.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
when we can bring that sense of safety, so space and this and
Mm-hmm.
grounding, in allowing and leaning on each other too, maybe even with peers of like, this is hard. Oh
Yes.
my gosh, I want to jump in. And also like, what is our process so that then we can help them with theirs. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's,
it's kind of like, doing some, when then planning on our own. Like, how do I
yeah.
want to respond to this? And you know
Hmm.
what? Like, and I think that's hard for parents who weren't athletes themselves sometimes, or didn't
Yeah.
have, you know, like I knew how I wanted to react if, I saw one of my children like being a poor sport. Like I planned that,
Hmm.
right? So I wouldn't
Hmm.
react. So I could be like, all right, this is going to be my response,
Yeah.
or struggling, on the field or whatever it was, or missing that cut by point oh 0.01,
Yeah.
seconds, or not making the team that they wanted. Like,
Hmm.
we can do some win then planning, like what's going to trigger us and being aware of what
Yeah.
our triggers are. And that's easier to do the more experience you have,
Yes.
as we're on this, as I said, the sport of parenting.
Literally, I just love that. I'm going to quote you on that one.
Yeah.
Oh my
So,
goodness. So yeah, so take us into your work and when an athlete. So I'll like give you the mic here to speak to just this pillar of mental performance and the value of it, and then how and in what ways you work with
mhm.
young people. But I don't think is it just young people? I feel like you cross a span, like you have a
Yeah.
range. So tell us,
Yeah,
tell
no,
us
I
more.
work mostly with, I work with anybody and everybody, basically,
Yeah.
athletes at any level.
Yeah.
I do work with some college athletes. I work with some professional athletes. And, my niche seems to be swimming, and hockey. Um,
Yeah.
Not a whole lot, believe it or not, not a whole lot of tennis players.
Oh, I was gonna
Um,
say tennis. Yeah. I
so,
want to pick your brain. Maybe we can we pause right there for tennis though? Because I do know like there's people that are listening in
yeah,
this space. And one of um my big sis at Michigan, her name is Jen. I always refer to her as my big sis, right? So she is married to the head coach at Tennessee, and
okay,
Chris Woodruff, tennis. Tennis isn't it?
okay,
So
yeah.
like can that connection. So I know that there's people listening in the space. And I've worked and mentored young people in tennis, and like I'm one of the things I get stuck on is the ranking and this
Hmm.
constant, just like the numbers and the levels and all of these pieces. And so, though your work isn't centered in that space, like what would be ways that parents can show up in that way to support that process without getting too attached to those numbers and what rank you are and who you're playing and what their number is, and yeah, just how do we stay grounded through that sport and its particular challenges.
Right.
Yeah.
And, and that's interesting because, I do work with a lot of golfers, and that's kind of structured the same way in terms
Same.
of
Yeah.
rankings. Yes. And then
Yeah.
gymnasts in its own way. I work with a couple of
Hmm.
gymnastics teams and individual. And so all that leveling and stuff like
Yes.
that. Right. And I mean, as hard as it is, and I'm sure this is the message that you give too, is that they still have to go out there and play and
Yeah.
compete, right? Like we can't control where we're ranked because
Hmm.
we don't know what the other players are going to do. We don't
Hmm.
know what other, what we're competing against. We're only competing against that person across the net from us in any given
Yeah.
moment, right?
Yeah, not
Or
the
the
story
other,
of what we've
not the
already
story
written.
written,
Yeah.
right? Right. And so we have no idea what anybody else is doing. And at the end of the day, we need to focus on the things that we can control. And,
Yes.
it sounds so simple, yet so hard. And I
Yeah.
mean, I wish I had a magic wand and that I could say something that was like the $1 million answer,
Yeah.
but I
Well,
don't
the
like it.
control the controllables. I think
Control the
that
controllables. And I know
yeah.
that sounds like a broken record and a real like cliche thing that comes out of all of our mouths, but
Yeah.
I do think that's incredibly important. And, part of
In
that
in
is
every
then
moment.
in every
Yeah, in
moment,
every
yes.
moment. And
In
yeah.
every moment, it's about staying present and just staying
Yes.
where your feet are, right? And
Yeah.
like, focusing on, okay, what's important now? Well, it's
Mhm.
how I show up. How do I want to show up today? And
Yes.
at the end of the day, we can control our compete level and we can
Yep.
control our commitment level. Like, are we committed
Yeah.
to the process? Are we committed to how we've decided we want to show up? Right?
Beautiful.
Are we
Yeah.
committed to that? And those are the things that we can control.
That's it. That's so beautiful.
I
Yeah. So
mean,
you were speaking in terms of the teams, so the ways that you're working, like how you're
yes.
serving, and when would somebody maybe say like, no, like let's bring Amy in, like what are, yeah, and what
I
ways?
mean, yeah, like I work with teams in terms of building, good team culture,
Mm,
working on, then more often than not, work on, with the individuals on teams in that
yeah.
capacity, offer workshops, offer season long things with teams, one-on-one packages with individual athletes.
Yeah.
Again, coming in workshops, kind of, um, I whatever the team, athlete, parent, program, club needs, I
Yeah.
design specific workshops based on what their needs are.
I love that. I think
Whether
that's so
it's a
important.
sense of
Hmm.
culture, like I said, just no cookie cutter approach. It's really like, all
Yeah.
right, what are your needs? I'm going to meet you where you're at.
Yep.
So tell me where you're at, and then let's explore this and let's figure it out
Yeah.
and figure
That's
it out
beautiful.
together and collaborate and let's go for it.
Hmm. Yes. And just like same here, cheering you on, and this work, like the resistance that we're still up against in
Yes.
2025. So if someone's listening is like, oh my gosh, like we're, for the like maybe parents that are coaches as well, or parents that are sitting on boards or making these kind of decisions, it's like, well, why this work? Like why? Like why this mental pillar? Why do the culture work? What would be your answer to that? The skepticism of, the time, like I know you're trained MSPE as well. So in that, right, like they do such a beautiful job of the outlining of the three, hey, I'm like time and the outsider effect.
Right.
I'm missing on the third one, but just
I
kind
am
of the
too.
common
So yeah, the
objections.
commons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, again, it's the common, like, we spend so much time training, our skill and our
Hmm.
craft and our physical body. And
Yeah.
at some point, and I do strongly believe this, at some point, every athlete is going to have the same skill, right? Like every athlete is doing the skill work at this point. There's so many doors you can go through to do the skill work now. There's so
Hmm.
many doors you can do on the physical training, on the,
Yep.
dry land and, the strength building and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like at some point, everybody's going to have those same skills. I mean, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
see it in hockey with your girls as they get better and better. Like there's going to be
Yeah.
those outliers that you just know you can look at age 12. And that this is in any
Yeah.
sport, I believe, that you can tell at a young age that they just have it, right? Like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter what they do, they just have it. But then
Yeah.
you're going to have this whole group of of athletes that have the
Mhm.
same skill, they have the same strength, right? Or they're
Yeah.
doing the same things, but what's gonna make the difference? It's gonna be
Yeah.
up here. It's gonna be how they handle adversity. And
Hmm.
let's be real right now is we're living in a stage of like instant gratification, right?
Hmm.
So and going back to that discomfort thing, like kids can't sit in discomfort. Like, what do they do when they immediately get uncomfortable? Like, even like standing in line to get their Starbucks, what are they
Hmm.
doing? They're pulling out their phone,
Hmm.
right? How can we
Hmm.
expect them to be uncomfortable in their
Yeah.
sport? And when failure hits or when they make mistakes, if they can't even be comfortable outside of the arena, right?
Hmm.
So in terms of that, back to your question is they need these mental skills more than ever because
Yeah.
there's so much adversity out there.
Yeah.
And particularly you see it at the college level. These kids are all used to being the best on their teams. And
Yes.
now they're thrown into a program. They're thrown in, where to a college where everybody's been the best on their team. And now they're
Hmm.
competing for spots. They're not
Hmm.
used to sitting at the end of the bench. They're not used to even swimming. They're not
Right.
used to not being on the scoring team.
Hmm.
That doesn't happen at the club level or at the
Right.
high school level,
That's
right?
such
And
a
so
thing.
all of a
Hmm.
sudden they're here
Hmm.
and you know what? We're doing them a disservice because they don't know how to
Hmm.
handle it. So let's be
Hmm.
proactive. Why are we going to
Yes.
wait until they get into that environment and struggle? And then
Hmm.
it becomes, then not saying that it's going to solve mental health issues because that's its own entity, but I do
Yeah.
think that it will. There's a helping piece of that.
Oh, 100%. I think that this the lens that I see things through now versus maybe like 10 years ago in terms of mental health on a continuum and the connection between accumulated stress and trauma in the body and our ability to be able to handle stressors. So this idea of proactively working to learn how to navigate discomfort, which means that you're having to learn how to create safety in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Those 100% that's all connected to how, like, where our nervous system is and which impacts our mental health. I mean, that
Yes.
is
And
like, you could say our mental health is on that
yeah,
continuum.
I mean, and
Yeah.
it's life skills. Like I know,
Yes.
you and I are in the same, boat. And I mean, I feel strongly we're teaching these athletes or individuals life skills that they're
Mhm.
going to carry with them. And more often than not, that's what the parents come back and like, hey, we had no idea this is also going to help our athlete in A, B, and C as
Yeah.
well. Like, we're
So good.
we're so fortunate, right? So I
Yes.
mean, we're
Yes.
out there and all we want to do is is
Is
help.
pay forward too, really.
Yeah,
Like,
pay it
and
forward. Absolutely. Yes.
there's such great, there's a lot of like kind of one-off things. And I think when I think about like our shared roots, our common roots of like the MSPE, for example, like that, the curriculum there, and using mindfulness as a tool and just this nervous system thing, like these are that's at the root level, building this solid foundation that then, right, you're saying is a springboard for thriving
Mm-hmm.
in whatever area or handling the stuff that life is going to throw at us. And so when people are um, often still parachuting in, right, like you're
Yeah.
saying, this reactive mode, but starting to maybe start to see this in the same way that strength and conditioning was 25 years ago when my
Yes.
husband was first starting. It's like that was
Right.
unheard of, or just kind of with football. And now
Yeah.
it's like, this is something that we're doing not just to get power and stronger, but also injury prevention, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of these different things that are going to help us move and learn how to move and move differently. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. And that's a great point. Like that's, I tell people that all the time. Is like I strong like mental performance, and I
yeah,
mean, I wish it were now, is going to be what strength training was,
yeah,
like you said, 25 years ago. Because even in the 80s, like I didn't do any strength training for tennis,
yeah,
not until I got to college. And even then, that was kind of, new. But now
mhm,
everybody does it. Now everybody
yeah,
does dry land. Like, I mean, man, if I had what these kids have today,
yeah,
so it might have been a
yeah.
different
So
story.
well, right. I think that too. My
Maybe. I don't
swim
know.
coach,
Like,
he was a bodybuilder. And
okay.
so I'm like, if I go back to high school, I'm like, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mentally, there were some gains there. But I have one more. Do you have time for one more
Yeah,
question?
absolutely. For sure.
Okay. So this idea, and your son being in the service, right? This idea of well, I say old school, but that idea of what I would call like old school militaristic, like trying to train the brain by physical grueling tasks and kind of beating you down and yelling at you, like that
Hmm.
style. So there's still a program out there that exists. They've changed names. I don't want to get in trouble for sharing too much detail, but that's the philosophy.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that in terms of an approach, and like maybe why the way that you do it? Yeah, I'm trying to ask this in a way where we're not, because I don't think there's a space for shame. I do think there are ways that cause more harm than help.
Yes,
Yeah, when
I
it
do
comes to this
too.
space.
Yeah, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Because yeah, I don't think there's like no, don't want to shame anybody or
Yeah.
anything, but I mean,
But just the question of the physical, like, so do we need to is the way to train the brain to just beat down the physical body, be yelled at, and do all these tasks that, like, where you have to be physically broken down in order to get stronger mentally?
no, I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
we need to beat our bodies down in order to. I think that could. I think there's. I think there are some athletes that function with that for whatever reason because
Yeah.
they're wired that way,
Yeah.
and I think it works for some, but I don't particularly with the generation of athletes that we're working with now,
Yeah.
um, and and their experiences and where we're at and stuff. I think that's a hard way to do it, right?
Yeah.
Like I think it's coming from a good spot for sure. Like, coaches, of course, want the best out of their athletes,
Agree. Yeah.
100%. But I think there's that where it can have if we're creating fear,
Yeah.
we're 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 not in a space of safety. And I guess I'm just a big believer that safety is a really big component of performance.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yes.
have to know that, and um, breaking breaking us in terms of getting to there. I just think there's better ways.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes. Thank
but
you for navigating that's tricky.
there's still a handful of programs and coaches that still are that old school
Yeah.
mentality.
And I think it's worth, so the understanding around it, like what you just named there, though, is like the paths diverge at the space of pulling in this idea of nervous system and this and sense of safety and cultivating that safety, which is necessary when you think about that flow state of being connected to that, and also some level of arousal in this what polyvagal calls a hybrid state of
right.
being connected to safety. And so by moving, so there probably is movement, like, and I think that it does work in like you're saying with some athletes. And then to that I would say, well, what's the cost? Not for you to answer, but this is my own train of thought of like, okay,
Right.
well, it may work, and also what would have been the cost or the benefit of moving in this direction, or at what cost. So
Yes.
that idea of, instead of using fear in that way, can we operate in a different way? And there's so many different modalities. So that's, I bring that up too, to encourage people to look into your work and the way that you're operating and the way that you're helping build skills to help with this mental pillar and bolster it. That
Yes.
there's still, there's a lot out there that maybe is operating in a different way. So that's
for sure.
my way of shouting out your work
I
and
appreciate.
encouraging
Thank you.
people to move
Yeah.
toward
So
you.
hopefully,
Yeah.
yes. So
Yeah.
and helping coaches understand. I mean, I've talked to coaches too, and helping.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think coaches also don't understand this mental performance piece,
Yeah.
which is hard. Like,
Yep.
I can go in and work with a team, but if the coaches aren't on board and they're getting
Yep.
different messages, right? So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I think coaches just coach the way they were coached,
Yes.
right? And so, well, it worked for
Mm-hmm.
me, so it's going to work now, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
understand that maybe there's a better way,
Yeah. Yeah. And that we've learned so much with,
yes.
like, I don't know if are you familiar with Amisha Jha's work with Peak Minds and
Yes, yes,
in her
yes, yes.
lab, and my, like,
Lab,
it's just, there's
yes,
so much.
yes,
Yeah. She's
yes.
doing a
I've
lot
read
with
it.
the
Amazing,
military.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Right.
that there's just so much more that we're learning too about the brain and how
Brain
to,
and,
yeah. Yep. How to
and
leverage
so,
that.
so I think there's an educational piece out there for the coaches, and the coaches being willing to kind of check their ego at the door and
Yeah.
not trying to, um, put all coaches in one box, because that's not the case. But I think, there are still a handful of old school coaches out there, and you see it in
Yeah.
every sport, whether it's hockey or swimming or,
Mm-hmm.
and they just, it's my way or the highway,
Yeah.
and they have a hard time admitting that, okay, maybe there's another way,
A different
and that's
way. Well,
okay. And
different,
there's a
because
different
again,
way, or it's a
different
way,
can feel
different,
like
yeah,
it's wrong or bad. And I
wrong,
think
yeah,
what, coming back to this, and we can close here, is just like the parent piece, because I've read, I've seen online, I've heard with my own ears of this, like, that there's still a belief that not even inside with coaches, but that meant training the mind and training that has to be done in that way. Like, there's this image of like how it needs to be done in this kind of fear-based
mm-hmm.
physical way, that with a physicality piece. And so what we're saying is that there's still some of that, that still exists. And also, as a parent,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the only way. There are other ways that we can access and train the
Right,
brain. And so it's not,
absolutely,
so, and I think in that, I want to add this, just for parents who maybe don't have as much experience in sport or not as much confidence in being able to say things. If there is a coach who's using that level of physicality as a way of punishing or trying to train in that way, I think it's worth
mm-hmm.
getting curious and how the athlete's actually doing, because that, to me, like, having navigated that as an athlete, like, that's
Mm-hmm.
that was abusive, like to
Yeah.
use that word just bluntly, and it caused
Yeah.
a lot of harm. And so being curious and stepping into the space, like we don't have to become overbearing and quote crazy parents, but leaning
Hmm.
in with a level of curiosity and asking intentions.
Hmm.
And yeah, and this space of just expanding our knowledge base to know that there's other ways of doing it that doesn't necessarily look like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, and to piggyback on that, as a parent, like I think
Mm-hmm.
it's okay, like if coaches don't want you to ask questions,
Mm-hmm.
then you know what? That might be a red flag as well,
Yeah.
because as parents, we can ask those questions if we ask them in the right way,
Yeah,
right?
the
Like
approach matters.
the
Mm-hmm.
approach, yeah, like if we're,
Mm-hmm.
not demanding anything, or just with a sense of curiosity. Just, hey,
Yes.
I want to I want to learn about your philosophy, right?
Yeah.
Like I want to learn, like, where are you coaching from? Not judging, just, hey, I'm curious,
Yes.
like, and we should ask those questions.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
should, because not every program's the right program
Mm.
for our child, and that's important. So, even like hockey is, we followed the program that had the best coaches.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't necessarily the best program, but like every level, like there's a coach. So like,
Yeah.
we knew how and not just the best coach for our child. And so what was best
Yes.
for our one son might have been very different for our other son, right?
Hmm.
So like we were loyal to our kids' development,
Yeah.
and we're willing to make those changes for them.
I think that's so powerful. Oh my goodness.
Right.
There's so much
And
more
by
we
the
could
way,
talk.
that's okay. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
at the end of the day, for the right
Right.
reasons, it's okay.
If we're centering our, like the
Yes.
kids, our children's development at the core of it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got to have you
We should,
back on. We can
so,
definitely have you back on for more. Where can people find you? I'll make sure that it's all in the show notes, but just share.
yeah, you
Yeah.
can find me at transcendmentaltraining.com. That's my website. I'm also on Instagram at Transcend Mental Training, and on LinkedIn at Amy Oliphant is where my LinkedIn is at. So
Yes.
those would be
Amazing.
the couple places. So thank you
Awesome.
for having me. I enjoyed this
Oh my gosh.
conversation. This was awesome.
So much
So
so. Yeah. Thank you for being here.
absolutely.